everybody. Welcome to Thursday. The S&P 500 was up 0.00%. I just got back from my vacation. This is the second time we've had a 0.00%. It was actually down 0.24 points, but when it's 5,600-ish on the S&P 500, that rounds off to zero at least. Somebody once mentioned on the last one that I should have a different colored shirt. All these shirts have colors related to where the market is. I don't have a white shirt, which would be the most obvious color for this, but nonetheless, it was interesting today because the market was actually up quite a bit, a little over 0.8% at one point in time. Nvidia's earnings results were very good. They weren't spectacular, and so actually the stock dropped a little bit, and their forward guidance was seen as a little bit soft. Now, their earnings growth was still over 100%, but that pales in comparison to the 486% earnings growth that they had a couple of quarters ago, year over year. So, they're slowing down a little bit. Makes sense. Big company like that is impossible to keep growing at that level. But the market, I think, was a little bit relieved, at least in the morning, about the situation not being bad or anything like that. And then on top of that, we got a report that they revised the gross domestic product growth for the second quarter from 2.8%, which is what it was originally reported, to 3%. So the economy is growing well, because right now what we need is kind of these offsetting reports. We need to show some strength, but not too much strength. And so, for a while there at the beginning of August, we got several reports in a row that were showing some weakness in the job market and different things. The market dropped, total of 8.5% from high to low. And then we started to get some stronger reports coming in, and the market has basically come back. We're not quite back to a new all-time high. That is still an important thing. I think we're actually just having a hard time getting to a new all-time high. There are some counter influences here with approaching September, which is historically the worst month of the year, and such too. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, one thing I do find interesting about this, I've read a lot of articles about how bad September is on average, and a lot of times when you read in one direction a lot of things, the market will go in the other direction. So don't be surprised if September isn't okay. We'll see how this plays out as far as that goes. But, August has been basically a sideways motion month in the end. So there is some potential power to move forward in September if that does happen. The market will be probably also waiting today, and maybe even came back down to zero today, because we do have the PCE report coming out tomorrow. So this is the inflation report that the Federal Reserve looks at, specifically the core inflation. This report should be okay, since it's already had the CPI report, inflation, the consumer price index, and the PPI, which is the wholesale price index. Both came out at good numbers, so PCE should still come down. The last couple of months, it's basically just gone sideways, so we'll see what happens. But the Federal Reserve seems to be primed to do a rate cut in September. They meet on the 18th. So that might help the market. I've said that a few times before. So not a bad time. Market is very close to the all-time high, within 1%. And that's a good thing. Just keeps bumping up against it. And again, sometimes that's what it takes. You got to dry up that, selling pressure that's sitting there until it finally disappears, and then you can break through. I do have a hard time imagining the market really skyrocketing between now and the election, just because, again, there's these unknowns and different things that are happening. But I have underestimated the power of this market all year long. In April, I thought the market might come down a little bit more, at least, go sideways for a little bit. That didn't happen. We had a V recovery here in the beginning of August, same thing. So hopefully, we're not doing the norm, which would be a soft September, and we'll just continue to move forward with this and kind of inch away and move on. And we're basically going sideways for August. So I wouldn't see that as a terrible result for September either. We'll see how it goes. But nonetheless, that's what's happening right now. It's a good time to be an investor. Things are going well. It's a good time to be broadly invested also, because we're just seeing the motion between, like, small caps are up today, 1%, then they're down a bunch. And, having kind of everything, I think, is the way to go here for the most part. And, that, I think, is a really important component of a market like this, where there's a lot of rotation. Utilities were up today. And, so it's really, this churning motion that's been happening now for really a couple of months. So anyway, look forward to being able to see what's going to happen tomorrow. We do have the show tomorrow. I will do a summary for what I saw happening this week. I think it was a really interesting week. We'll talk about the PCE report that came out at the show also. You can, send in your questions live. We'll try to answer them during the show if you'd like. And look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.